So I'm going to go over the quarter 3 credit recovery first 6 sections, which are on transformations. So this first question in the section where you're plotting on the grid, you're reflecting over an axis. You need to focus on whichever axis they're asking for. In this case, it's X. And then a reflection just goes that many spaces in the opposite direction, kind of like you're folding it over. So in this case, it would be 6 away in the other direction. So right there. And then they want the coordinates of the original image. So remember, it's always x, y, so -1, 6. And then your coordinate of the image, which is always that prime, is -1, -6. That's where you ended up. And when a point is reflected over the x-axis, they're trying for you to realize a pattern here. It's the y value that changes sign. And that was me noticing that the 6 and -6 change signs. In the next section, they're going to just talk about different reflections. So I'm just going to quickly write those rules over here. So we have a reflection over an x-axis that can happen. You can reflect over the y-axis. And then there are 2 other lines that we talked about, which were y equals x and y equals -x. The rules are the following, and you have to apply them depending on which one they're talking about. So for the one that this is, the y equals x line, the y and x just swap places. So that's what's going to happen. You're just going to swap places on that. When you reflect over the x-axis, your y value changes sign. That doesn't mean that the y value is negative when I write it like that. It means that the y value changes sign. Same thing here. When you reflect over the y-axis, the x value changes sign. And then this last one, y equals -x, that's when they both switch spots and both change signs. So those are the rules that you need for reflections. For rotations, there are, again, 3 different rules that we learned. So when you rotate 90 degrees, that is where x and y swap places and the y value changes sign. When you reflect over 180, they both stay in the same spot, but they change sign. And then a rotation of 270 is where they switch spots and the x becomes negative, or not becomes negative, but negates, so it changes its sign. So that's the rule I have to apply here because it's a rotation of 270. So I'm going to switch spots and change the sign on the x value. So I switch spots with the -9 and the 6, and I change the 6 from a positive to a negative. Translations are next, and that's simply where you add or subtract to your coordinates. So you're moving it. Right 2 is a positive direction for your x, and down 1 is a subtraction from your y. Left would be a subtract on the x, up would be an add on your y. So I'm just going to take -1 and add 2. So -1 plus 2 and 1 minus 1 because I'm moving that down. So I end up with 1, 0 as my final answer. For dilation, they're giving me my image, or excuse me, they're asking me what is the image after I've dilated this point by the scale factor of 1/2. Remember, scale factor is when you multiply, so you're just going to do 4 times 1/2 and then -2 times 1/2. That's how you dilate. You simply multiply by the scale factor. So we end up with 2, -1 for our answer on the dilation. The last thing is a composition. Whenever it has this circle, that's the symbol for composition, you always do the one on the right first. So I'm going to apply the rule for a reflection over the y-axis, and that's when you change the sign on the x value. So I get -8, 5. And then the reason it's a composition is I'm now going to use this point and do the next thing, which is translate by 4, -5. So I'm going to add 4 to my x value, and I'm going to subtract 5 from my y value. So -4, 0 is my final answer. And that is how you do the first 6 sections of the quarter 3 credit recovery assignment.